Hello there, folks. My name is Spoonks, and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was Ron's Gone Wrong, opening to 7.3 million domestically and 17 million worldwide. So this is a first in a while, as many animated and family films have been doing very well in terms of opening weekends, and seeing this was very surprising as well. There's no way to sugarcoat this. This is not a good opening, as this is about 10 million less than the Addams Family 2's opening weekend from earlier this month, but also this now puts the film as the second lowest opening weekend for any animated film released post-pandemic, behind Spirit Untamed, and the third lowest opening weekend for any family film released post-pandemic, behind both Spirit Untamed and The War with Grandpa, though to that film's defense it was released earlier in the pandemic. But regardless, this is still not a good opening, definitely something you don't want to see for the animated film that you're only releasing in theaters, which this was. It was given a theatrical only release, a first in a while for a movie like this, and you would really want this movie to open better than it did, because while the budget hasn't been reported, I can assume it's a lot bigger than how much the movie made. Maybe if the studio had advertised and marketed more, because while I did see some advertising for it, I know that they had released McDonald's toys as early as August and put out the trailer like super early in advance. I believe in June the first trailer was released, which was very early given the circumstances back then. The marketing campaign wasn't as big or as huge as other family animated movies like Space Jam or The Addams Family 2, where they had huge promotions, where this one, they just kind of put it out there and released a couple things and didn't really get the word out, which was unfortunate for the film, as people really liked it. Critics are seeming to really like it. I've seen great reviews, as well as audiences are really like it. The cinema score for the film is an A, so that's obviously great for a family film, but unfortunately, the box office says otherwise. It is not doing it right now. It's gonna need to pull off what Raya and the Last Dragon and The Croods: A New Age did back earlier in the pandemic era, where they had continuously strong hold and amazing word of mouth. Well, given that they were pretty much the only movies that people wanted to see back then, but were still able to make more than their opening weekends. They tripled and maybe even quintupled the opening weekends they had for those movies. And while I think this movie will have strong holds, given that it is a family film and the next family film doesn't come out for a couple weeks, so it could have strong holds and strong word of mouth, I'm not sure if it's gonna become one of the bigger animated movies of the year, which is unfortunate, because spoilers for my review coming out tomorrow, but I really liked it, so stay tuned for the review tomorrow. But hopefully this movie does pull off what Raya and the Last Dragon and The Croods: A New Age did earlier in the pandemic, where they were able to surprise people and make more than anticipated. But right now, things are starting off pretty slowly for Ron. Number 4 was Venom: Let There Be Carnage, making 9.3 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to 182 million and its worldwide total to 353 million. So, if you were to tell me earlier this year that Venom: Let There Be Carnage was about to surpass Black Widow both domestically and worldwide in the middle of October, I would have called you crazy, but yet here we are. It has now surpassed F9 The Fast Saga domestically to become the third highest grossing movie of the year domestically, and it is about to surpass Black Widow by a mere $1 million in America and worldwide very soon. That is honestly astounding. Even I didn't expect this to happen. Well, I did. But earlier this year, once again, this seemed like an anomaly. This was not going to happen. But once again, here we are. And given how well this movie is still doing, it fell just 44% this weekend. I still think that 200 million is in the bag for this movie. I don't think it's going to surpass Shang-Chi, given how Eternals is just around the corner, and that's going to steal a large majority of this film's audiences. And given, even though this weekend was still pretty impressive, it is now below 10 million, so I think the movie, while still has the chance to cross 200 million, I think it might be on its way out. But once again, like I said, this is another great weekend for the film. It continues to do very well. It's guaranteed going to surpass Black Widow, and I definitely think 200 million is a safe bet for the film in the future. Number 3 was No Time to Die, making 12 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to 120 million and its worldwide total to 524 million. So the film has now surpassed 100 million officially. Last weekend it was barely nearly on that measure, but now it has, so hooray. And it has now surpassed Free Guy to become the 6th highest grossing film of the year domestically, behind Quiet Place Part 2, F9 The Fast Saga, Venom Let There Be Carnage, Black Widow, and Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings. And it has become one of the biggest domestic hits in the worldwide box office, as it now surpassed 500 million globally. That is fantastic. And now it is just less than 200 million away from Fast 9's worldwide total of 716 million. It's still a little early to see if it will surpass that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does that very soon. So while it might not be one of the bigger Daniel Craig Bond movies, and I'm not sure if it's going to make enough to surpass Quiet Place Part 2 domestically, I still think this is more than you could have asked for, given how long the wait has been, and it comparing the domestic total to the international total is like comparing day and night, because it's now at $500 million. It's one of the biggest hits of 2021 worldwide, which is an incredible feat to say. And given how this movie is skewered more towards an older audiences than a large majority of the blockbusters seeing right now, 120 million right now, especially when most older people aren't really as comfortable as going to the movies as younger people are, is something to be proud of, I think. I still think this movie can crack 145 to at least 150 million domestically. And once again, the worldwide totals are just so good that you can honestly excuse how it's doing domestically. So, once again, I think No Time to Die is doing fine. It could have done better, but given the circumstances, I think it's doing pretty well for itself. Number 2 was Halloween Kills, making 14 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to 73 million and its worldwide total to 90 million. So the film took quite a hit this weekend. It actually had one of their steeper second week drop-offs for any blockbuster released in this pandemic era. In fact, its drop-off was on par with the second weekend drop-off of the Suicide Squad with 71%, which is not a good hold in the slightest. But considering the fact that the film only costed 20 million and it is already at 70 million, this drop off doesn't really add to much. Like, don't get me wrong, this is still not a good hold and actually shows that maybe audiences weren't too kind to this movie, and many people thought this sequel was rather lackluster and encouraged others not to see it, or would rather encourage them to see them at home on Peacock. But once again, with the film costing as little as it did, it still doesn't really change the fact that the film is still rather a huge financial success and is going to be the biggest, well, maybe not the biggest, but one of the biggest horror films and the biggest movies of the year. And I certainly think that $100 million is a safe bet for the film in the near future. And similarly to The Addams Family 2, even if that film has already fallen off the top 5, I think this movie will still get a major boost from this weekend, considering the main fact that Halloween is literally upon us and it's on Sunday. And I still think many audiences really want to see something scary to get into the spirit of the holiday, and they have this to do that. So, even if things really slowed down for this movie, I don't think it will have a huge effect on the film's success because, again, it only costed $20 million and it has already made more than that. So, even with this steep drop, it's already a huge financial hit, and they're already making the third one as I am saying this. So, whether it had a steep drop off or not, the film is still a huge financial success, and it looks like it will continue to do so for the weeks to come. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, and that was Dune, opening to $41 million domestically and $223 million worldwide. So the film exceeded many people's expectations. Many people thought that the film was going to underperform and not do nearly as well as it did this weekend. And clearly those people were wrong, as this is now Warner Brothers' biggest opening weekend this year, topping Godzilla vs. Kong's $32 million from March. It really has been that long since Warner Brothers had a hit. And this says a lot, considering how many blockbusters and huge tentpole movies Warner Brothers released, and those movies you would have thought would have easily topped Godzilla's opening weekend, but failed to do so, like Space Jam or The Suicide Squad, or hell, maybe even In the Heights. And it was this one that was able to do so is insanely impressive because it shows how highly anticipated this movie was. People who saw that first trailer a year ago were clearly excited and patiently waited until they could see this on the big screen, and how well the marketing was, as they did really promote this movie. They got the word out, and many people were interested in seeing the movie. And it seems that people are really liking it so far. Critics obviously have been praising this film to death, calling it the next Star Wars and the next Lord of the Rings. People calling it the best movie of the year, and audiences also seem to be enjoying it as well. It has an A- on CinemaScore, which is always very good, and word of mouth has been very strong for the whole weekend. It's been trending all day, well, rather all weekend on Twitter for the past couple days. I could not stop seeing this movie for the past couple days, which is very good. And also keep in mind, this is just domestically. Worldwide, it is crushing it. It has surpassed its $165 million budget, which is very good, and I have no doubt about it that it will surpass it very soon. I'm sure that Warner Brothers, Denis Villeneuve, and Legendary Pictures are all very happy about how well this movie's doing. I'm sure everyone who saw the film is very happy with how well it's doing, and I can almost guarantee that we will be seeing more of Dune in the future. So far, we're off to a good start. It was also released on HBO Max the same weekend, and I heard it did pretty good there too, but it's really the theatrical release where it crushed it. But also it's going to be interesting to see how that second week drop off is, because that's what usually kills these Warner Brothers movies. They have a solid opening weekend, but then suffer from steep drop offs like Space Jam and The Suicide Squad. So hopefully this film does not suffer the same fate. But for right now, things are starting strong for Dune. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters this weekend. And I feel this weekend will be a little bit slower than what we've seen for the past 3 weeks because of two things. One is, once again, Halloween is upon us, and In fact, it's actually on Sunday this year, so I have a feeling that many people are going to stay at home and hang out with their friends and family, go to parties, go trick or treating, and enjoy the holiday with their loved ones, especially since they couldn't do so last year. And if you are doing so, please stay safe, and I hope you all have a safe and happy Halloween with your loved ones. But the other reason is the two movies coming out. I've seen very little marketing or buzz around them, not like awards buzz, because there's been plenty of that for both, but in the terms of like people excited for them, I haven't really seen many people talk about. The first one is Antlers. This is a new horror film from Scott Cooper and by Guillermo del Toro. Critics have been loving this. They have been praising this movie to death, calling it one of the greatest horror films of the year and in quite some time. And there has been a lot of awards buzz I've seen for the film. People are loving this. And much like No Time to Die, this film has been delayed constantly. I couldn't keep track of the number of times this film got delayed. Let's just say it's been pushed back long enough, and now it's finally coming out. But I haven't seen a whole lot of marketing or promotion for this film. I've definitely seen like a couple ads for it, but not enough to where I could say I could see this movie doing all that well. And because of that reason, I've also seen very little buzz around the movie. Not a lot of people I know are aware that it's coming out, even, so that's going to be a problem. Same thing applies to the other movie releasing this week, Last Night in Soho. Critics have been loving it to death. It's gotten tons of award buzz. People are singing the praises of Edgar Wright, as this is his new film and first horror film, and they're saying that he really knocked it out of the park. But once again, I have seen very little advertising for this film. Not to the point where I'd say it's been non-existent, but I haven't seen like a whole lot of ads or promotion for the film whatsoever, in my opinion. And once again, like Antlers, I don't know too many people who are excited about it. I don't know a lot of people who are talking about it or are aware it's coming out. So that could once again be a problem. But who knows, maybe this movie and Antlers could surpass my expectations. You never know. But we will see how well these movies do, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you guys think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all of the social media links right there. And until next time, guys, stay sharp.